Squanto, Friend of the Pilgrims, Chapter 13, The Pilgrims. The young hunter's name was Okamo. He led Squanto to his village. It was a large village beside a bay. Chief Massasoit came out of his house to meet Squanto. He was a young chief, tall and strong, with long black hair. Others came to look at the strange Indian in white man's clothing. "Who are you?" asked Massasoit. "Where is your home?" "I am Squanto, the last of the Patuit tribe, and I have no home," said Squanto. He told his story. "Now I have no people. I have nowhere to go." "You are welcome here," said Massasoit. Okamo took Squanto to his home in the village. It was a small house. He lived there with his mother, father, and 3 brothers. Squanto tried to be happy in the home of Okamo, but he had lived with white men so long that Indian ways were now strange to him. Indian food and clothing were strange too. At night, the small house was crowded. Squanto's bed was hard. All about him, the Indians sang themselves to sleep, and their singing kept him awake. In the village lived a young chief named Samoset. He had come from the north to visit Massasoit. He had known many white hunters and traders. They had taught him some words of the English language. Samoset liked to talk to Squanto about the white men. He said to Squanto one day, "You must hunt and fish with the others. You must play games with the men of the tribe. Then you will not be so sad." Squanto hunted and fished with the others. He tried to join in the games, but he felt no better. He was weary of the village. He was weary of the people in it. One day he heard 2 men talking about him. "Here comes Squanto," said one. "Let's get away," said the other, before he starts to tell one of his long stories about the white men. Then they laughed. Squanto was hurt because they laughed at him. He was angry too. He went away into the woods. For many days he hunted and fished alone. He built a little house of poles and bark of trees. Snow came and covered it, and it was warm under the snow. Winter was almost over when Okamo came to his house. "We have looked for you," he said. "Why?" asked Squanto. "We want you to come with us," said Okamo, "when we go to talk with the white people." "The white people?" asked Squanto. "Yes," said Okamo. "We do not know whether they want to be friends or not." "Where are these people?" asked Squanto. "Their ship is in the bay, where the Patuit village used to be," said Okamo. "All winter the ship has been near the shore. The white men came to the shore, then they went back to the ship. Many times they did this, as if they did not know where to go. We hid in the woods and watched them, but now they have come to stay." "How do you know?" asked Squanto. "They are building houses," said Okamo. "They have women and children with them." "The pilgrims," said Squanto. "Pilgrims?" said Okamo. "They are people who want to have their own church and be free," said Squanto. "I heard of them in London. When I left the white men's land, they were making ready to come here. I know they must be the same people." "At first we kept away from them," said Okamo. "Some of our people feared their magic and wished to drive them away. But Samoset said that they would do us no harm. So we went to visit them. They gave him gifts and wanted to see the chief. Massasoit is going to visit them, and he wants you to go too." "I will go," said Squanto. They started back together. Early the next day, they reached the village. Massasoit was ready to visit the white men. His face was painted red. He wore a deer skin on his shoulders. About his neck was a string of white bone beads. Most of the other men of the tribe were going with the chief. They had painted their faces and put on beads and their best animal skins. "See," said Samoset, when Squanto came into the village. "See what the white men gave me?" He was wearing his presents: a bracelet, a ring, a knife, a pair of shoes and stockings, a green shirt, and a black hat. "We are glad that you have come, Squanto," said Samoset. "You can talk to the white men better than I." They started up the trail and they walked in a long line. Some of the women and children walked beside them. All day they walked, and at night they made camp. Early in the morning they went on. It was still morning when they came to a hill where strawberry vines grew thick in the summer. On the other side of the hill was the river that ran into the bay. On the other side of the river, the pilgrims had built their houses. The chief said to Samoset and Squanto, "Go and tell them we wait here." Samoset and Squanto waded across the river to the village of the white men. It was a small village. There was one large house with walls made of mud. There were a few huts made of mud and sticks. "Part of this village is where Patuit village used to be," said Squanto. A dog began to bark. The door of the large house opened. A short little man with red hair came out. Other men came running. All had fire sticks in their hands. "Friends," called Squanto. "We are friends." Slowly the men put down their fire sticks. The red-haired man came forward. "Where do you come from?" he asked. "How did you learn to speak English?" "I lived in England many, many years," said Squanto. "Then you must be the Indian I've heard about," said the red-haired man. "Is your name Squanto?" Squanto was pleased. "I am Squanto. Yes, yes." He pointed to the hill across the river. "Chief Massasoit waits here. He will talk to your chief." "I am Captain Miles Standish," said the red-haired man. "Tell your chief," oh, cute, "to come here and we will talk to him." Word was carried back and forth from Captain Standish to the chief. At last, Chief Massasoit, with 20 of his men, came to the white men's village. The chief sat in one of the houses with the white men's governor, John Carver. Outside the house, the Indians and the white people looked at one another. They did not know what their leaders were saying. They did not know whether they would be friends or not. Inside the house, the chief and the governor talked. Squanto sat near them. He spoke in the English language to Governor Carver. "Chief Massasoit says his tribe do no harm to the white men. He say when Indians come, they leave bows and arrows behind." He spoke in the Indian language to Chief Massasoit. "The governor tells me the name of this village is Plymouth. He wants you to know the people of Plymouth will do no harm to the Indians. When they visit the Indians, they will leave their fire sticks behind." "It is good," said Massasoit. "Our people will be friends." He and the governor came out of the house together, and they were smiling. The Indians and the white people knew that they were to be friends. They began to nod and smile at one another. They shook one another's hands. There was a day of feasting. The next day, Massasoit and his men started back to their village. Squanto went with them to the river. The other men waded across, and they looked back at him. Samoset called, "Are you coming, Squanto?" Squanto shook his head. "I stay," he said.